All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be touching on the top core plays here for week 7 on draft. So we're going to start out at the quarterback position. To me, I think, and a lot of you guys are probably going to hate this given how bad he looked, I think it's Jordan Love. The price tag that we're getting on him is just too appealing to me, especially given the matchup with Denver. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I did on the deep dive part. A lot of the issues that the offense had, I don't think is Jordan Love's fault. Last week against Las Vegas, he was finally not the solution, though. Like, he is not the problem. Last week, he was a part of the problem, though. Whereas the previous games, it was his good play on 3rd and 10. And that's the issue, guys, is on 1st down, on 2nd down. They keep making these little mistakes that add up, and they're just kind of drive killers. You can't win games or have a great season while just having to convert 3rd and longs, or 4th and longs for that matter, which is what was happening really the first 4 weeks. Part of the reason why I was getting super excited about Jordan Love. That's why I was getting so hyped about him, because he was clutching up in those situations. Definitely a bad game. Definitely a throwaway game last week. They get their best match of the year against Denver. Aaron Jones, we still don't know the status on that. That does change really the dynamic of the offense. This will be interesting to see what happens there. But given the price tag and given really how bad the quarterback position has been thus far this year, I'm perfectly fine paying down for someone that in 4 out of his 5 games basically did top 5 quarterback numbers. He was doing top 5 quarterback numbers. And like, if you give him that touchdown of Christian Watson on that horse collar tackle, the intentional horse collar tackle, the intentional dirty play, then his day doesn't look as bad. There's probably 5 more points there as well. And more of the reason why I'm in on him is definitely the matchup, don't get me wrong, but like, do I really want to go with Sam Howell? Potentially. I'd be kind of fine with that. I don't know if I would have him as a core play. You got Jimmy G doubtful. Probably going to be Brian Hoyer in that game. Don't love that. Tyson Bagent, I do think he is just going to be another version of Justin Fields, but that's a more difficult matchup. It kind of seems like Las Vegas has actually been casually good the last 2 weeks. But do I think he can get rushing, like 10 points rushing? Potentially. That's more of a GPP play, though. It's risky. Geno Smith, basically the exact same play as Jordan Love. Heck, at the beginning of the season, some people were asking me kind of what are my expectations for Jordan Love because I was hyping him up. I said he's going to be Geno Smith which Geno Smith was solid. A little bit of luck, I would say, with a couple of plays here and there. But I would say that's been true so far. It's a good, accurate one. And so just take the slight price discount. I think Stafford's going to be solid, but we can talk ourselves into just paying down at quarterback. And that's really the biggest reason why. So that means at running back, I don't think we're going to be going with Aaron Jones. You could. He's in a smash spot going against Denver. And if he is active, it's kind of like last week where it felt like it was either Matthew Stafford or Kyron Williams. Turns out both should have worked. Puka Nacua dropped a big touchdown. And then Kyron Williams went off in the second half. That could be the case this week as well with Aaron Jones and Jordan Love. But we know most times than that we don't want to be pairing that up. And so for now, given the uncertainty of Aaron Jones, I'm going to be rolling with Jordan Love. So that kind of leaves me with really the one obvious core play I would say on the slate, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker had seen his most snaps of the season in a close game. And a lot of people were thinking Zach Charbonnet was going to start to take over. I never personally saw that. Kenneth Walker's a pretty good talent. And he showed it last week. The stats might not indicate that too much at the 3.3 yards per carry. I think that's kind of a bad stat. He's clutching up on short yardage situations, scoring a short yardage touchdown. That doesn't really indicate anything when a lot of the times running back position is very situational. And we have seen him be successful there. Was used in the passing game, looked good in the passing game as well. So to me, at 7K, he's kind of the easy plug and play core play this week at the running back position. And that does feel like a huge toss-up. I've kind of been defaulting to Saquon Barkley as a pay-up option, but I don't know if we need to. There's so many intriguing value type plays here. I don't want to roster them. Jaleel McLaughlin could get more work, but that seems risky. I will say if we get news that Roschon Johnson is out, I do think I like Foreman, but the worry with Foreman is he's Derrick Henry in the sense that very much touchdown or bust. Kind of Najee Harris as well. And Najee Harris has been bust every single game thus far. But he does get a more appealing matchup there against Las Vegas. Heck, we just saw A.J. Dillon have his best game over the past 2 seasons against that Raiders defense. Foreman is probably a little bit better, a little bit quicker. Maybe not as much of a bruiser, but I would even still say he's about the same. I think Foreman has a little bit more upside there. So good price tag there for him. Now, Travis Homer is back as well. He could be the 3rd down back there, and he might get 50% of the carries if Roschon Johnson's out. So wouldn't be a terrible play there. I think everyone is screaming, just mention the LA Rams players. Come on. And yes, that is the issue that I have is we don't know if it's going to be Zach Evans. Heck, the way Sean McVay has been saying things this week, it kind of seems like it's going to be Royce Freeman, or at least like a 50-50 split there. That doesn't shout core play to me. That shouts GPP play to me. Now, we probably will get more of a clearer picture by Sunday morning. Sean McVay is typically pretty clear. And if he says Royce Freeman starting, trust that. If Zach Evans is starting, trust that. And then we can treat them as a core play. If he says the same stuff he has been saying, which is could be a hot hand, then we start to worry. Then it becomes more difficult to play either of them. And so for me, I don't see another core play running back play on the slate. I see a lot of good plays, but I don't see any plays in which I'm like, we need to roster him. It's kind of funny. Last week we had like 4 or 5 of those. We have 1 this week. Now receiver wise, it's completely the opposite. We have way too many good receiver plays on the slate. Starting with Cooper Kupp, gets a phenomenal matchup there going against Pittsburgh. I do think that the Los Angeles Rams are just going to throw the football a lot, and that's part of the reason why I like Royce Freeman a little bit more than Zach Evans, because I think he'll be the receiving back. But I think we're just going to see what we saw in the first half against Arizona last week for the Rams, is that they're just going to be very pass heavy. Matthew Stafford, heck, he could end up with 50 passing attempts in this game. So I think we want at least 1 pass catcher. Obviously, Cooper Kupp has been dominating. I think there's a great chance that he gets 20 DraftKings points again in this one. So I know it's a lot to pay up for him, but we're going to have some value on the slate. We can afford to pay up for him. From there, Diggs has been going off. We're not too worried about that New England defense, especially with Christian Gonzalez out, who was looking pretty good, was a rookie, but they just don't have any depth there. They're a bad team. You could easily pay up for Diggs. Feels like a good core play. Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. If you end up on them, I'm fine with it. I don't feel the need to go out of my way to play them. Puka Nacua in a great spot. Should have had a touchdown last week, dropped it. I don't know if we need to go out of our way to play him necessarily. Jacoby Myers at a phenomenal price tag. My worry with Jacoby Myers is that Devontae Adams has kind of been complaining. Typically speaking, the squeaky wheel does get the grease. And so kind of worried there that Devontae Adams could be a little bit more involved this week. That being said, Jacoby Myers does look like a stud. There's no doubt about it, okay? 7 targets last week, 10, 12, 10. The worry, Brian Hoyer at quarterback. I don't think that's going to matter too much. The bigger worry is that last week, Minnesota, once Justin Fields was injured, Minnesota just decided to rush the football a ton. And you know what Chicago did? They also decided to rush the football a ton. So to me, this game might be shortened due to a lot of rushing attempts. And that's my worry, is that there's just not going to be that many offensive plays, thus not that many passing attempts. And we just might finally see Josh Jacobs' best game thus far. I still don't see Jacobs as a core play, though. Cooper feels like he should be a core play. He does feel a little bit priced up, especially given the matchup. But the matchup's not anything I'm worried about. I'm saying he's priced up because of the matchup being easy. The worry is that Deshaun Watson is looking like he's not going to be active. And so you are kind of paying a premium for a less than stellar backup quarterback play. Now, Cooper kind of had 2 big plays last week. Felt a little fluky. I mean, not for him. Like, he makes the plays. They're kind of just hope and pray plays, though. He still makes them. He's at a cheap price tag. I think he makes for a phenomenal play at that price tag. But I have kind of been defaulting to going with someone like Christian Watson. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I put this tweet out. If you guys follow the props coverage, I put this in there as well. I'll just show it again. So in games where Christian Watson has been healthy, it's been 7 games where he has played in over 70% of the snaps. He has averaged 17.4 fantasy points and a half point PPR. And a lot of people, there's a comment down there that said, are you referring to last year when a lot of his production came from unsustainable touchdowns? I'm like, well, yeah, that is part of it. But also this offense is kind of designed to do that. Like, Matt LaFleur does scheme plays to be open. Heck, we saw Christian Watson probably should have had a touchdown last week. Besides that horse collar tackle, that's a legal play, should have had a touchdown. And now he gets another good matchup against Denver. Like, that's an appealing price tag for a guy that consistently dominates. Like, he's only had 1 week in those 7 starts where he wasn't a top 15 receiver. Okay. So we're getting him in a great matchup at a cheap price tag. Obviously, we're playing Jordan Love. We like Christian Watson there. Continuing on, love Marquise Brown in this matchup. Love Marquise matchup. I think we're going to see Kenneth Walker heavily for the Seahawks. Then we're going to see Marquise Brown continue to get targeted heavily here as well. Look at the targets, guys. 11, 10, 10, 7, 10, 5. Still had a good game. Like, this is just such a cheap price tag for a guy that does have a great chance to 3x at this price tag. And it is a defense in which they're kind of, I don't want to say they're content to give up production in the passing game, and like the Cardinals don't really have as much of a threat in the rushing game as much now. I do think Keontae Ingram looked good, but people aren't going to be, I don't think the Seahawks are going to be worried about that, so they might put a little bit more emphasis on trying to stop the pass. I don't think that's going to matter, though. From there, I do want to call it Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer had a huge game last week that got taken away from penalties from linemen that weren't even in the play going downfield. And so tough to say if that's going to change anything. Like, I don't know. It's a tougher matchup this week on paper, but it is supposed to be a high scoring game. I expect him to be targeted heavily again. You look at this game against Las Vegas, he should have had a better game there as well. 2 bad drops in that game for him. So he should have a big game eventually, and it does feel like it's going to come here. Either way, it's still a cheap price tag for someone that should be giving us 10 DraftKings points. From there, I do think Tutu Atwell makes sense in GPP. He's going to be playing a lot. Wendell Robinson, definitely a player that I'm looking at this week, guys. Just been heavily involved. He's going to play around 60% of the snaps. Someone that we need to be going out of our way to roster at that price tag. And then lastly, just getting in tight end. This hasn't really changed from my preview video that I did 2 days ago. Probably should have started with just more or less putting an emphasis on these plays a little bit more rather than saying, yeah, these are pretty good plays. No, this is more definitive. I feel very confident about these plays that we're on. Luke Musgrave still in a smash spot. If you're adding in another Packers player, that becomes more of a GPP stack to me. The player that I still want to be going in on the most at tight end is going to be Michael Mayer. I mean, 80% of the snaps last week, 6 targets, had a really good game. Looked solid in it as well. Gets a good matchup against the Chicago Bears. Like, this to me is a very good starting point for your build. Now, let's say you're like, I don't want to play Jordan Love. I get it. You could pay up for Matthew Stafford. I will say Lamar Jackson does feel like a safe price tag as well. You kind of solo stack him as well because, or not solo stack him, you run him out solo because you don't need to stack him because he's been rushing the football a bunch. You still have a bunch of Sire left over to fit in whoever the heck you want, really, at running back, and then pay down at D. So that's going to be all for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the core plays coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well, especially for if you play props content, because you don't want to miss out on a very good bet because you're slightly too late because you didn't know the video was out. That's all I have for you guys for this video. Let's have a good week. And as always, let's keep cashing.